You, I mean, all of you, including me, all of us have a split personality. We have two different beings, and even though they both fill the entire body, but each one has different headquarters. Well, different but same headquarters. The headquarters are the brain and the heart. You say, well, which one is in the brain and which is in the heart? Both of them. Just matter of which is their main headquarters, how they operate. You want to put that away, Sean? So otherwise, I'm going to be like slapping you in the face while I'm talking. Put it there on the table so when you pick it up, I can hit you really hard. Okay. So this is how it works out. You've got a brain and a heart. Those are even physiologically, brain and heart are two major centers for your body. Each one can be called a king of the body. So you think, well, my brain wants the whole body. Well, guess what? If I pick you up and throw you into a cold river, your brain doesn't have time to register the temperature of the river and what the heart has to do, and then send a message to the heart and tell it pump at such and such a rate. It doesn't work that way. As soon as the body registered cold, even before the message can get to the brainstem, the heart is already pumping super fast immediately. And then the brain says, why is the heart pumping so fast? And it gets the message. If you would have the heart would always have to wait for the brain, nothing could survive. So the heart has its own little clock in there that's telling it how fast to pump or how slow to pump. And each beat, a little slower, a little faster. This is for something for me, secret. We're supposed to bomb Iran or something? Okay, got it. Not bombing Iran yet. Okay, just hold on. Okay, so each beat that the heart does, it's timing that beat. The brain is not telling it to do what to do. Sometimes a person can go into panic, like that cold water episode, because the heart starts pumping and the brain doesn't yet know why. The brain is always trying to predict what's going to happen next, what it's going to be doing. And when something in the body surprises the brain, there's anxiety, panic. So, but that happens sometimes because the heart has a certain degree of autonomy. You can try slowing down your heartbeat or speeding up your heartbeat. Or let's say it's a panic situation, you don't want to panic, so you're telling your heartbeat to slow down. It's not impossible, but it's very, very difficult. So yeah, there are people who are capable of doing it, but it's with a very strong, powerful, consistent signal from the brain that it happens. There's a story about that. Was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, Moshe Meisels or Moshe Blanker, and he was a very brilliant man, and he had studied in Berlin, and was also very educated, knew many languages, and so in the Napoleonic Wars, he was placed by the Russians in the French camp because he spoke such a good German and French, and he was planted there as a translator. The French just seemed to assume that the Jews would be on their side, so they took a Jew, and he was there, and he would find out what was going on because he was the translator, and he would send messages across to the front. So the story goes that at some point, whether it was a general or, according to one account, a Napoleon, which would be difficult, but anyways, that at some point somebody high up there, maybe Napoleon, realized that there's a spy, and we got to find the spy. He walks into the tent where the generals have all the maps and are making all the plans and everything, and he looks around, he sees one person who's obviously not French. There's his beard, whatever, gives it away. So he goes over to him, and he doesn't ask him. He just goes like this. You are a spy. And Moshe says, no, sir, I'm a translator. And he feels like his heart doesn't go racing. It must be he's telling the truth. Although if I were telling the truth and somebody did that to me, I would go. But anyways, he stayed calm. So it saved his life. So they asked him afterwards when he told the story, so how did you manage to control your heart? He says, what are you talking about? This is the first thing I learned from the Alter Rebbe. So mind rules over the heart. That's the first thing. But for most of us, this doesn't work so easily. So the heart is, if you want to describe physically the heart, it's responsive, like impulse, immediate. As soon as something happens, we react immediately. And we react very forcefully. Bang, like that. So like, even compared to other organs, there is a nervous system, and the nerves tell the muscles what to do. For the heart, that wouldn't work. It'd be too slow. All of the muscles all have to work all together at one on both sides of the heart. They all have to work in perfect coordination. So the nerves and the muscles are really one. The muscles are nerves, basically, and muscles at the same time. They're the only cells in your body that are that way. So that the nerve doesn't have to send a message to the muscle. It is the muscle, and it's just doing. And all of those, that whole system is all connected together, so they all respond at once. So that's what makes the heart the perfect embodiment of emotion. Say, emotion dwells in the heart. So emotion meaning your immediate reaction to things, not what we would call the feeling of emotion, your sense of emotion. That's cerebral. But this immediate sensation of emotion. So, for example, your face goes red or white. That's the heart doing that. That's a sensation of your heart. Your hands are trembling. That's because of your heart. But you say, well, the brain is the one that's, yeah, but the heart's what's making that sensation happen. So most of our emotional sensations that we have are heart-driven. I don't know about when your stomach feels queasy, maybe that's the stomach doing it, but it also relies on the heart to do that. So, so we really sort of backed up a step, but we discussed this last week. When we say that the soul resides in a certain place, I remember Tova, we talked about this week. What do you mean a soul resides? A soul is not physical. Not physical means it doesn't have physical space. How does it reside somewhere? How is it in this place and not in that place? So the animalistic soul resides in your heart, and from there extends out to the entire body. How can it be in any particular place, in this particular part of the heart? Well, in general, how can the soul be within a body? So I explained that gave the example of gravity. Or you could use electromagnetism or any other force. These forces that you say, well, where is electromagnetism? Where is gravity? How much does gravity weigh? How large is it? So you can't apply those terms. It's a force. But this cookie has a certain, when I pick it up, drop it, gravity affects it to a certain degree. The same thing you can say with electromagnetism. I can put electromagnetism through this paper and it won't conduct it. But I take a piece of metal where it has all these free electrons bouncing around in there, and electricity will travel through it. The same with heat and other mediums that are electromagnetism, basically. So there are forces that energy, whatever you're going to call it, that take embodiment of a sort in physical things all the time. You can have the same thing with information. Information is embodied within structures, such as music, art, or words. And the words, sentences, paragraphs, embody information. How big is information? It's not a certain size. It's an abstract concept, but it becomes embodied through these structures. So the same thing, organisms when they reach a certain degree of complexity, they embody a soul and they become alive. So a simple organism, a simple soul, a more complex one, a plant, a tree, a more complex type of soul. It's an animal, it's far more complex. It has a neural network to it. Okay, so now it has a whole different type of soul. And the human brain is way beyond any of the animals. So there's a far more complex soul there. And when this soul enters into any structure, where is it going to be principally?
The brain.
So, well, it depends on which kind of a soul it is. If it's a soul that's all about response, impulse. So yeah, it has a place in the brain, but really where it's most manifest is in the heart. Whereas if it's something that's it's about intellect, or even about transcendence and self-transcendence. Oh, that belongs in the brain. That's why we have a different residence for each one. So say the heart is the principal residence of the animalistic soul, because it's all about impulse. He said something not nice to me, I'm going to hit him back. That's the animal, right? That's the beast. If I'm not going to hit him, I'm going to find a way to hit him back. Okay. So this animalistic soul also rises to the brain, but when it comes to the brain, it sort of hijacks the brain because it's not really its place. It's not a brain type of thing. It just needs a brain to get what it wants, but it's not using the brain for what the brain really is for. And that's, with most of us, that's 90% of the time, that our emotions are hijacking our brain. So the bulk of our thoughts are just emotions bubbling up to the brain, and the brain is unpacking these emotions, and it's producing all this chatter in your mind, and then thinking, well, if that's what I want, how am I going to get it? And sometimes masquerading as intellect, as though, no, I concluded rationally that this is the way, but really it's all very subjective and just sheikhet, say, it's the heart bribing you to think that you're using your mind when you mind that the mind is using the heart when really the heart is using the mind. I can't get over the example I gave from Jonathan Haidt. Remember that one? He compares the human being to a big elephant with a little person sitting on top. And he asked the little person sitting on the elephant, what are you up there? I'm the master of the elephant. I tell the elephant where to go and why we're going there. The elephant then sees some peanuts, goes rushing after the peanuts, and the guy on top says, we decided to go there because, he says, that's your brain. That's your brain. You think you see objectively and you listen objectively and you come to conclusions, but you only see what your heart wants to see, hear what your heart wants to hear.
We're talking now about the animal soul.
The animalistic soul, which is most of us. So it has a mind, but the mind is just so much under the control of the heart. So like it is with animals. So we're trying to get our brain in charge over here. So get the brain in charge.
When you were speaking earlier about gravity, is there an analogy to the soul?
Yeah, so just as gravity is to a piece of matter, so the soul is to an organism, or electricity is to different types of matter. Everything receives gravity. Only some things receive an electric current. It has to be a certain kind of structure. It has loose electrons to receive an electric current. And then some things receive information. Other things don't. Things that are just noise, a mess, ugly. There's no information there. But proper structure does. So I'm saying that an organism is a being that structure, because of its structure, it's able to receive a living soul. It gives it agency, volition, those things that make it a living being. And what's the difference between a rock and a living being? Is a living being wants to live. The rock doesn't mind if you crush it up. It's not going to resist. Maybe it does, we just don't recognize that it is. But at least we perceive it as that. And it tries to hold itself together to some degree. But, and the Rizal says that everything has a nefesh. But at least in our perception, the difference is that this has volition. The tree is trying to grow. It's trying to burst through the concrete. It wants to stay alive.
When I asked that question about the soul and gravity, I meant to say the divine soul.
So the divine soul we'll get to now.
Sorry?
We're going to get to the divine soul now.
We're not talking about the divine soul.
We're talking about the animalistic soul, which resides principally in the divine souls. We could talk about the brain. And the brain is completely different than the heart, which was what makes it the residence of the divine soul. We said with the heart attitude is, he said this, I do that. You punch me, I punch you back. What does the brain do? Human brains are constantly modeling things. We see something and the brain says, what is it? Because I need to know what it's going to do next. So to know what it's going to do next, I say, well, what is it? What patterns does it have? And we make sort of a model of what this thing is in our mind so we can predict what it's going to do next. So our brain wants to know not what do I feel about this thing? How am I going to react to that? That's going to come later. First, I need to know, what is it? And we go further than that because we have language. We need to communicate with one another. Not only do our brains say, what is this thing here? Our brains say, how does this person here perceive me? We have to do that in order to speak with others. So we build a concept in our mind, who am I? Not who would I like to be, but who am I that others see? And we can even with our mind say, well, just who am I, period. Not as others see, but who am I really? Let me be honest with myself. So that's something amazing. That means the brain is attempting to transcend itself. Principally because it's capable of language, it's able to see outside of itself. What does this person see? And how does this person see me? And who am I? So that's transcendence, self-transcendence. Something that the heart can't even approach. The heart's just saying, we do this. The brain has das, meaning, oh, I exist. What do I do now? That's that self-reflection. So that's what makes the brain the ideal residence in the human being for a divine soul. That capacity for objectivity, which is a capacity for self-transcendence. Remember what we called self-transcendence was in Perek Vav, chapter 6. Self-transcendence, we talked about bittul. Remember? Mm-hmm. And bittul is self-transcendence. And that's really what the divine soul is all about, self-transcendence. So the headquarters of the divine soul, therefore, is going to be in the brain. But this divine soul needs an edgeway into your body. And the brain is not enough for that. It needs to get into the heart as well. So its residence extends to the heart, and we say to the right side of the heart. Whereas as the animal soul's principal residence is the left side of the heart. But in the right side of the heart, that's where a person can feel what's going on in his divine soul. When does he feel it? And that's what we call the Yetzer Tov. Right? The Yetzer Hara on the left side, the Yetzer Tov on the right side. The Yetzer Hara is the emotions of the animalistic soul, emotions like that move you, and the right side has the emotions of the divine soul. So, but here's the big difference. The emotions of the animal soul are impulses. They're immediately there. So there's always a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Tov, the emotions of the divine soul, are only through contemplation. Because you thought about this is how you feel.
So where do you put love? Or do you define it, whether it's the animalistic part of love or the...
Yeah, you're right on. There's animalistic love.
But there's also divine love.
There's divine love, yeah.
Not just to God.
It could be love for one soul to the other soul, because it's, or love for God's creation and compassion and all those things. But there's a big difference. Between the two. In some way it might seem subtle, but the true love is only through, the true love that comes from the divine soul is only through contemplation. It's not instinctual in the sense of oh, that gives me pleasure, I love it. It's, I thought about this, and I thought that this is something amazing and wonderful, and therefore I love it. I appreciate it. You know, there's a difference between you love a person because of what this person gives you, or you love this person because I recognize there's something very great about this person. And it could be that what's great about this person, what this person gives me, but I thought about it. So I feel the quality of this person. It's not just an instinctual response. What will be the difference between the two is when you wake up in the morning, she's got curlers in her hair, it doesn't look so pretty. It has to go on, you know. It's sustainable when it's through a deep awareness.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
But just like the way we are today is like society doesn't want us to think like everything, like we want to watch TV, we want to watch sports, like we want to watch like short videos. Like most of the things are centered around not deeply thinking anymore, especially younger people.
This is the amplified animalistic soul that's not just inside you, but all around you, and especially in this device.
Right, and it's addicting.
Well, but
that's
now
what
it's
they want
gotten
us
to the point.
Yeah.
If you were watching television for an hour, and then you finished television, and asked you, so what were you doing? Well, I was watching this show. What happened in the show? This happened. If you're doom scrolling for an hour, and then you pick up your eyes and, oh, it's 10 o'clock already? I ask, what were you doing? I have no clue. Which means the device effectively got to your brainstem and turned off your consciousness. And there's a word for it. It's called botification.
What's that mean?
You've been botified.
What?
Like a lobotomy.
No, bot. You became a bot. As in a robot. We botified you.
But it's like cutting off your divine soul, kind of.
Well, for sure, because you cut off the brainstem in the picture over here, down here, in the brainstem. There's a little place over there that if you turn it off, the person's no longer conscious.
But it's like very it sounds like very innocuous, but it's very like what you're doing is like very.
We destroyed a generation.
But it's like
what are you talking about?
But it's like very like
especially adolescent girls. We destroyed them with this stuff.
But it's like devilish almost. Like if you're not allowed, you can't connect with God because you can't get to this godly soul or this.
You can't even get to your brain.
Right.
You're no longer a human being. You became a bot.
Or you're an animal.
You have just the animal.
You can never
basic animal. Yeah.
We stay as animals.
Okay. Yeah. That's what it's doing. That's where they want you. There was an evolution going on over here that happened. Nobody expected that to happen. They thought, wonderful, connectivity will connect people to each other. Fantastic connectivity. And yeah, connectivity is a good thing, but not when it's to exploit the human being. And everybody thought it's so wonderful. We're getting this for free. No. Get this straight. My daughter, Brui, explained this to me once. She said, if you're in a transaction and you're neither paying the money nor getting the money, that means you're not the buyer and you're not the seller. You could only be one other thing, and that's the merchandise. So, I mean, the whole point of consumer electronics was to put in the 1980s and 90s, was to put the power of the computer in the hands of the consumer. And then comes along Facebook and reverses that whole thing, and now did the opposite. The consumer is in the hand of the machine again. So that's what happened. It's turning off your brain, and you're right. Once the brain is off, where is the divine soul going to come from? You strangled it. See, that's
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yeah, Noreen.
This relates to the advice, I believe it's in the Shulchan Aruch, where you're supposed to sleep on the left side. Does that have something to do with it?
It's originally from the Rambam, and he says to sleep half the first part of the night on your left side, and the second half of the night on your right side. That's assuming that you have two parts of your night, which apparently people used to have. Mm-hmm. They used to wake up in the middle of the night and then turn over or do something. But nowadays we just pretend we're sleeping through the night, I suppose.
No, nobody ever does.
People woke up around midnight or so and turned over.
People move, yeah. But
I really don't know what connection that has to the right side and left side of your heart.
Well, now
I remember it being mentioned somewhere, but I don't remember what it said.
Okay. I just wanted to know, because now the medical finding is that you should try to sleep on the left side.
Just your left side only.
Yeah,
okay,
well,
but they'll change their minds and they'll say science now tells us that.
Yeah,
because they keep on doing that.
So I thought maybe
we'll hold by the Rambam and just start on one side, end up on the other side.
Okay, but it has nothing to do with
whatever you do, don't sleep on your stomach, and better not to sleep on your back either. They're both dangerous.
No, but
so just keep it up. Get a good mattress too.
Yeah, but does it have something to do with the
I'm sure it has to do with the right and left side of the, but I don't remember what it says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I was saying is that the Arizal says that Pharaoh is the same letters. The word Pharaoh, Fe, Resh, Ein, He, is the same letters as Ha'oref, which is this, the back of the neck. Why? Because he cuts off. It's a tight place. It's a Meitzer Hagaran, he calls it. The Mitzrayim means the straits, a tight place. So he says that's the neck. And what Pharaoh does is strangle, so that the brain, your self-awareness can't come down to your heart. Cutting off the brain from the heart. Like there's a brain-blood barrier. It's also the nerves that have to come. Vagus nerve, and the spinal cord, and so on. So Pharaoh is like not letting the message come. Your brain is in one place, your heart is in another place. So now the social media found a better plan. We don't need to strangle. We just have to throw the brain out altogether. Turn it off, period. Just turn the brain off. Now we got you. We're indoctrinating you. We're changing the way you think without you even realize what you're looking at. You have no memory of it.
So you should not. A person should avoid sleeping on the back of the neck.
But we're not talking about sleeping now. We're talking about using social media. Don't sleep on your back and don't sleep on your stomach.
Okay, that's interesting because they have a theory about sleep apnea, which is very dangerous, and that's people who tend to sleep with their pressing against the back of their neck. So it makes sense, even physically.
It could. But we'll get to the lungs at another time, and the nose and all that. Right now, the brain. So we said the heart. So the left side of the heart is the main residence of the animalistic soul, and it also rises to the brain. And of course, it's everywhere in the body. That's just its headquarters. And the brain is the residence of your divine soul, and it's also in your heart, but it's also only there awake in your heart when you're thinking about these things. You contemplate, and it's there. And that's your Yetzer Tov. I mean, this model, right away, you see, it changes a lot of things. It means your Yetzer Hara is always there. But to have your Yetzer Tov awake, you have to have time to think about those things that awaken the Yetzer Tov. So you'll tell me, yeah, but there are good people do plenty of good things. They never think about God. Right? But we learned in the first chapter of Tanya that you can have an animalistic soul that likes to good person. And this is the way I was taught to be. And my parents said this is what I have to do. And so I do it. But it's still all centered around the self. Whereas from the divine soul can come true altruism. I don't want anybody to know about this. I'm doing it secretly. It's very hard for me to do. If people find out about it, I'll be very embarrassed. But I'm going to do it anyways, because I know it's the right thing to do. If you tell that to a sociologist, a psychologist, he'll tell you it's impossible. Everything we do is to avoid pain or receive pleasure. It's impossible for a person to do something that's not self-centered. Yeah, it's impossible for an animalistic soul, but there's a divine soul over here. That's what the divine soul is all about. It's not self-centered. So that's the divine, the divine soul. So now we're up to, in here, we did animalistic headquarters and divine headquarters. Now we get to two kings in one city on the next page.
I want to point out one thing, if it's okay.
What, sorry?
I want to say one thing
Yeah, please, go
about
ahead.
we think of the brain, the safe space for that's where the place where the nefesh is, the divine soul is. We say about the heart that's where the animalistic
Not where
soul
it is.
rests.
It's headquarters.
It's
not where it
headquarters.
is. It's headquarters.
Right. So could we compare that there's the same strategy, not strategy, but same territorial rulership that it has in the heart, the brain has in the brain. I mean, the divine soul has in the brain, that there's that, like, let's say studying non holy things. Let's say studying, like what we learned in chapter 8, right, about studying about the worldly science or whatever it is. That's not Torah, so that's something that it has a rulership over. It's something that
That's what the end of chapter 8, that it affected your divine soul.
Right. So could we say it's the same, that it has a rulership over that? When it comes to thinking, it always has the rulership, that it thinks in a way of, meaning the brain owns that territory.
We said
it owns the brain.
We said that the animalistic soul hijacks the brain. It's not a true residence for it, but it really should be the animal soul's principal residence. The only reason it's not its principal residence is because it's not its real place. That's an abuse of the brain. That's not really what it's using the brain for. Is not really what the brain should be used for. The brain should be used for its true purpose, which is bittul, self-transcendence. And the animal is using it instead for its ego, the opposite.
But when he uses the brain to learn about science or something else,
yeah, that's still, why am I
it could
doing
be
this? If you're learning the science in order to help you in your service of Hashem, then yeah, that's divine. But if I'm just learning it because, well, it's fascinating to me and I think I could get a good job from this, and people are going to, when I go to the next party, I'll talk about it and I'll look really smart. Okay, that's all animal. That's all animal. No,
So
why
the
do you?
animal could dress up in a way of a brain. It could take over the brain and be a
Yeah, it
brain.
takes over the brain. That's most of the time what our brains are being used for. All that stuff going on in your brain, that's the animal using the brain. And it, like I said, it really should be called residing there. Because okay, that's intellect, it's deciding what to do. It's feeling those emotions. It's unpacking them and making them into feelings, and it's deciding what to do. But the only reason to say it's not residing there because that's not what a brain is for. A brain is in order to get yourself out of yourself and go beyond yourself. You're abusing it. Oh, that's what the divine soul is doing. We got to use that a little more. So that's what it's about. That's what we're created for.
You can't really live day to day without using your brain for learning and
Right, whatever you do, all your emotions, everything. To be a single organism, just to provide a whole, you need the brain. But are you using the brain, or is the brain using the body? Who's in control? Is the little guy on top of the elephant just being schlepped around by the elephant, or is he truly the master of the elephant? Well, we want to make you the master of the elephant. And this is an identity issue. Who are you? Are you your body, or are you your brain? So the only way you can be your brain is by being a divine soul.
One of the first lessons you taught, I think it was Nebuchadnezzar. I always confuse who it is, with like the welfare system.
Daniel, yeah. Daniel divined him.
So I don't know, like I'm a little confused. So Nebuchadnezzar is all full of himself. He gets tricked, but he ends up doing a really good thing.
Because it was told, you want to keep the kingdom stable. People are going to listen to you. Nobody's going to try to assassinate you. They'll love you. This is what you should do.
But it's animal soul, but the end result ended up working out. But then, I learned this thing today. That's why I looked at my phone. It's called the Wilson's Law. Yeah. And Wilson's Law says that people become more wealthy if they pursue learning. Like the more learning you do, the wealthier you become.
It is? Really?
Well, I don't know. Supposedly. If you pursue knowledge, usually things work out in your favor.
I just learned today that if you're, the more educated you are, the later you retire.
Well, maybe that's because you like working.
You're not really working, just sitting there using your brain and telling other people what to do.
But the thing is, I guess what I'm confused about is I remember something like the intent. There was another lesson I learned, something like the action is more important than the intent. So is it more important to have the divine thought, but the action, the output isn't the right output? So you have the right, you have the right output, but everyone in the city gets slaughtered, but you tried really hard and everything was good, or you did something really bad, but you saved everyone in the city. What's better? You know what I mean? I would say I did the bad thing, or I thought the bad thought, but I saved everyone.
So let's put it this way. To create real change in the world, who will create real change? So you have people who are, generally often become very famous, that seem to make big change in the world, right? Make big decisions and so on. It seems to change the world a lot. But then things turn around and revert back to how they were before, all over again.
True.
And then you have very few people in history of the world that make a change that seems to last for a very long time. And sometimes those were people that in their lifetime, they were not so well known. They may have even been ridiculed. So tell the difference. When the person is doing this from his own ego, the change is just swishing around the stew. He didn't put anything new into it, so it'll go back to its state. When the change comes from, no, there's something from beyond, something transcendental, something coming into the universe from elsewhere. It's a divine thing. Then there's true change in the world. And it's a lasting change. I don't know. One of my heroes, even though I know he was not a perfect person at all, but they celebrate him every year around this time of year as Martin Luther King. And it's an amazing achievement that he made. Because even though as soon as he was assassinated, everything backfired. And it looked like violence won out in the end. But he made a movement that really changed people's attitudes, the way that we think to this day. So why? Because there was divine inspiration there. And he was quoting the prophets, and that made a real change. And I think the environmental movement totally lost because they did not do that. They keep stripping out any sense of spirituality here and so on, and they attack the Judeo-Christian ethic that destroyed the environment, not all this nonsense and stuff. If they had come along to begin with and say, look in the Bible, we have to protect the environment. It says we're the gardener in the garden, and if they made it into a religious and spiritual thing, maybe they wouldn't be so famous, but I think it would have had a long-term effect. You have to bring something transcendent into the world in order to make real change. So yeah, actions are what matter, but the actions have to be coming from somewhere beyond in order to make real change.
That's good.
So now we got the 2 kings in 1 city. And this is the prelude note. 2 very different forms of life with separate headquarters sharing a single body, right? So you got 2 personalities in this body, clearly makes for a volatile situation. So ordinarily, some negotiation would be called to reach a compromise. Now we get to the actual work. This conflict, however, goes far deeper. Look what the Torah says about the nations that would descend from the twins in Rivka's womb. Each means each nation will struggle to overpower the other nation. So that's inside her womb is Esav and Yaakov. And what is she told? Hashem tells her that it's not one little baby in your womb who seems to be schizophrenic. It's 2 babies in there. And not only that, they have 2 opposite personalities. And each wants the opposite of the other. So therefore, there's no negotiations over here. There's no compromise. They're going to struggle each to overpower the other. They're not going to come out with a compromise. It's total surrender. Either you or I, one of them has to total surrender. So that's what's going on. That's your animal and the divine soul inside you. They're not just 2 souls. They're 2 opposite agendas to them. One wants, what's good for me? What do I need? And the other one says, I need to transcend myself. I need to go beyond that. I don't want to be just a me. There's something much greater than me that I need to be a part of. Well, there's 2 opposite agendas over here. So they're going to sit down at the table. What are they going to discuss? Well, maybe half the day you can have your ego and half the day you don't have an ego. That's not going to work. You can't do that. So he gives an example. It says, we see that the body is called a small city. It's actually a little story that's in Kohelet. Kohelet is Ecclesiastes. And it talks about a city, and the king comes to conquer the city, and there's a wise man inside the city, and even though the king is very powerful, the wise man saves the city, but that's not what about it. The main thing is that the Talmud says on this, what's the city? What is this small city? What's the city? It's the body. The body is a small city. And it doesn't say that the body is like a small city. It says the body is a small city. See that? There's a big difference. It's not like us. It is a city, only that it's a small city. Why is the body a small city? What do you see? Because it has freeways going out to the suburbs. What does it have that makes it a small city? Oh, no. Okay. No,
highways, veins,
veins. I guess highways. There's veins
arteries.
Arteries.
Yeah.
That's what we call them, arteries, right? Arteries of the city. For some veins, I guess are avenues, I suppose. Okay, arteries and avenues. Okay, it has a lot of people. That's a city.
That's the people.
A lot of people who are working together is a city. And your body has a lot of people inside it.
I'm good at that.
Your body has a brain and a heart and a stomach and a liver and all sorts of people in there. And they're all screaming out, give me this, I want this, we need this right now, do this. It's not one person. Have you ever been driving down the highway late at night? There's a long highway coming in from Niagara Peninsula into Toronto, and they have for miles and miles and miles, the lampposts are evenly, right, distributed. So you're going flash, flash, flash. That's the worst thing to drive at night. Don't try. It's the worst thing. When they have evenly, some engineer has to realize, space them differently, because when it's boom, 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 you're being hypnotized. So what's happening? You say, I have to stay awake, but my eyes are closing. But I have to stay awake. But wait, it's my eyes. Why are they closing? I figured out that if you eat almonds, raw almonds, you have to chew a lot. That keeps you awake. Well, that's stupid. Because I'm chewing, therefore I stay awake. I need to stay awake. I've got a load of 8 family in my van, and the lives are depending on me. I have to stay awake. Well, my body wants to stay alive, doesn't it? Why is it making me fall asleep? Well, what's happening is you have 2 systems, your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system. And one system is saying, we need to sleep. And the other says, we can't sleep. We need to stay awake. And the other one says, yeah, but we need to sleep. And they're fighting with each other. And sometimes which one is it? The parasympathetic nervous system just doesn't have enough energy to keep on going. The sympathetic system will, and then you're in big trouble. Or you take coffee and the coffee shuts up the system, the parasympathetic system. The sympathetic, whatever, I can't remember which one does what. The coffee shuts down. Which one?
Sympathetic is active.
Is the active. The coffee shuts down the parasympathetic, so that the part telling you to slow down and fall asleep shuts up, and then you're just awake. So that's how it works. But your body is in conflict with itself all the time. And it's not just this parasympathetic and sympathetic. It's like there's one system, you're talking about boosting your immune system. What's going on? The immune system, half your immune system is saying, we need more inflammation. We need to fight. The other half of your immune system is saying, no. We don't want any inflammation over here. We need to stay calm. And so it's 2 opposite systems. Everything about you, the blood system, half of it was saying, clot the blood. No, don't clot the blood. There's conflict throughout the body. All these different in your stomach, it's telling me we need carbs, we need protein, we need ice cream. Your stomach's screaming and the heart's sending its message, and the kidney's sending their messages, and every part of your body sending its message. They're all making the message. It's a city. Now, what keeps the city all together and makes it one community? Brain. Like you have City Hall, okay? And City Hall is supposed to make sure everybody gets the water, plumbing is working, electricity is working, unless it's run by the mafia, like in some cities that we know, okay? But otherwise, it's supposed to keep the whole city working as one. That's what your heart is doing, but principally your brain. But each one, if you ask the heart, who is making this whole body into one body? The heart is me. He asks the brain, it's the brain. The heart says, no. They ask, I give them immediately. The brain says, they ask, I think about it, and then I give them. That's why you lose, and I win, So it's a debate between them. But so there's a city of many individuals with 2 kings vying for control over the city. Now, are the 2 kings going to make a compromise? There's no room for compromise. Can't split the city in half. It's not going to function. People use both sides of the city. They sleep over here. They go, and it's all one city. We can't have 2 sides of the city. We can make a deal with the other king. Go find another body. No, this is my body. That's it. So well, maybe we can work out a way where we... No, because each of these two kings has completely different agenda for the city. It's not going to work. So that's the small city. So the dynamic between these two souls is much like two kings battling over one city, each determined to conquer the city and rule over it. Ruling a city implies, okay, it's not, there's many types of war. There's war where you want territory. So you see, there's territory over here. So the other country says, oh, they want our territory. What's going to happen? We're going to fight a war. War costs a lot of money. It's resources. Not a good idea. You know what? We'll tell them, listen, we'll make a deal with you. Don't fight the war, and we'll give you this territory. You give us that territory, and we'll make a deal. Okay, we'll make a deal. What if the king says, no, I want that territory, and that's it? This is no compromise. That territory belonged to my forefathers. It's part of Mother Russia, part of whatever. It belongs to us, and that's it. There's no compromise over here. So, okay, so then they go to war. And how do they establish this? They put down a flag and put around guards and whatever, fortress. It's now our territory. Fine. What about when you're conquering a city? A city-state. Like, let's say, I think the last city-state was Venice. So you want to conquer Venice. Do you walk into the city, put down your flag and say, this is now our city? It's not going to work. Not going to work at all. The only thing that's going to work is you have to convince everybody that you're a better king and get them all to pledge allegiance to you. That's the situation in this city. Each soul has to conquer, in other words, get allegiance from the entire body. How do you get allegiance to the body? How do you get the body to give allegiance to the brain? So the heart, the default from birth is the heart is the king. Your emotions. That's how you are as a child. And when you get to adolescence, it doesn't change so much. And by the time you're 40 years old, it may also not have changed too much. So the heart is in control. Your emotions are in control. Now, the brain wants to get in control. How is it going to get control of the body? So knows the linchpin of this war is to get to the heart. I've got to get the heart. And there are two ways I could get the heart. I could get the heart and totally turn the heart around altogether. Get the heart completely on my side, that I've totally conquered and won the heart. Or if I can't do that, I can at least show my dominion over the heart. That I'm stronger and I'm more powerful. You're like a vassal state, and you're not the king anymore. Right? You pay taxes, well, that sort of system. And that's the crucial difference we're going to find between a tzaddik and a beinoni. Both of them have to conquer the heart. But to what degree do you conquer the heart? Do you conquer the heart to turn the heart around completely? Or do you conquer the heart enough that the heart no longer has any say over you? No longer has its rubber stamp. And the heart means your ego. Do you do things because it feels good, it's nice, people will like me for this, or do you do it because this is the right thing to do? That's called conquering the heart. So that's what goes on over it. Ruling a city implies much more than expanding territory. To rule a city means to govern its inhabitants so they act in accordance to your will. You truly rule the city when the inhabitants have become habitually obedient to your command in all that you decree upon them. In other words, they get the command, and of course, that's what we do. That's what we do. In other words, they don't say, yeah, but this. No, there's no yes, but. We've already decided you're the king. If you say, that's what we do. Anyway, that's the law. Okay. So it is with these two souls, the divine soul and the vitalizing animalistic soul, that is of Klippa. They are at war with one another for dominion over the body and all its limbs. Limbs here means also all the organs of the body as well. Just going to learn a little bit more, even though it's after 8:30, but just a little bit more, because we started late. Now we're going to go through first the divine soul's agenda. How is the divine soul going to go about winning over this body. Now, you're going to have a big question over here. May not be a conscious question, but I know subliminally it bothers people. The divine soul is at war over a body. It's not a war of divine soul versus body. No. Like some people think it's a soul versus flesh. No, it's not soul versus flesh thing. It's divine soul versus animalistic soul over who gets the body. So what personally bothers me right away is counterintuitive. Two things. A divine soul is a warrior. And secondly, it wants a body. You would think divine soul just wants to sit and meditate, contemplate, be spiritual, as long as the body doesn't bother me too much. But to go to war? I'm not a warrior. I'm a peacenik. I have to meditate. I'm into spiritual things. I remember Richard Alpert, who became Ram Dass, and he saw that there where he was in India, people were starving, people dying, going blind from malnutrition, and said he was a doctor. He knew it could be solved. His guru told him, "No, that's their karma," but he couldn't take it. He started a whole fund to get them vitamin D, get them glasses, and so on. I remember meeting another woman who was stayed in Dharamsala for like 2 years, lived there, and she said, "There's two groups. There's the ones who are fighting for free Tibet, and the ones who are into the spirituality thing. But you don't get many people that are both. It's either one or the other. It's a spiritual or political. This is a very few people that manage to have both. But here we're saying, no, the divine soul is getting political here. It's an activist. I want to take over a body. Why is that? Why is that? So the very first thing we learned in Tanya, because before you were born, your soul was given an oath. Be a tzaddik. Don't be a rasha. Which is basically an oath that you will enter this body to conquer it. So even though the divine soul should be, by its own nature, self-transcendent, go beyond myself, get out of here, just let me contemplate. No, it has this mission that it came into this world to do. Get into this body, take it over, and change the world around you. Okay? That's what God wants. That's what I have to do. It's that kind of a warrior. This is what he wants, therefore that's what it is. Not my nature, not the type of person, but that's what I have to do. So therefore, the divine soul's inner desire and will is that she alone be the body's ruler and director, and further that all the body's limbs obey her command, submitting themselves entirely to her, and yet more, that they be like a vehicle to its rider. What's the difference between a vehicle to its rider and, say, just an animal to its rider? An animal has its own will. And it says, okay, you're the master. I'll let you run the thing. You show the horse, I'm the master. Okay, the horse gives in. The vehicle doesn't have a will of its own to begin with. That's how the divine soul wants things. Just be a vehicle to its rider, no will of its own. And that the energy running through your limbs fully embody her. All her 10 faculties and 3 interfaces, the clothing described earlier, the thought, speech, and action. They'll be entirely integrated into the limbs of your body, and your body will be filled exclusively by them. And that no foreign agent, who's the foreign agent? The animalistic soul, will even pass through. In other words, she won't have a voice here at all. That's what the divine soul wants. No voice to it. Now, does she want to destroy the animalistic soul? She can't. That would be death. But she doesn't want the animalistic soul even to pass through. What does that mean? What does that mean? what does she want to do? What is it that she wants to take away from the animalistic soul? Because we need you, but you should not be a king. In other words, we don't need your opinion around here. And in very practical terms, it means if I decide I'm going to give tzedakah, I don't need the animal soul to come to me and say, you know, that's a good idea because then maybe you'll get on the board. Or that's a good idea because then a lot of people will owe you a lot of favors. Or yes, that's a good idea because it will make you feel good. No, I'm giving tzedakah because it's needed, that's why. Period. I don't need your justifications. That's called dethroning it, taking away its rubber stamp altogether. And even more than that, by a tzaddik, the tzaddik wants that this animal just obeys it as well. Is totally obedient to it. You're my servant. And not only that, you should come onto my side and you should want the things that I want. My animalistic soul should desire the divine, should desire just for the sake of it being divine. No, you don't like this. It's too much for you.
No. Can't you have both? Like,
well, you have ego in there as well.
No, like there's things that like I could think of that I do that I think are like godly. Like I do it because I just like the person or like the thing. And then there's things that I do because it's smart. It's good business sense. So like think of Mossad. You think Mossad does stuff so godly, like, you know, but it's smart and helps Israel and whatnot, or like, you know, things that are Machiavellian that might not be
it's a big deal in the Mossad because nobody ever, you know, you go and do some of these amazing manipulations, get everybody's pants to blow off. And nobody ever finds out who you are.
But they're, you know, like
to your last day, nobody ever found out that you were the one who engineered this. Nobody, right? But they're not allowed to tell anybody. Even your own family doesn't know. You come overnight and your family has no clue that you work for Mossad, right? And you want to tell everybody, guess what we just did? Oh, you can't.
But they did like these bad things, like white lies, but they did it for a greater good. You know?
You know about the rabbi who takes off in the middle of Yom Kippur to play golf? He just can't take it anymore. He has to play golf. So he goes off and plays golf. And the first hole in one. Second hole in one. Well, he never got so amazing. So the angels come complaining, how can you do this to him? He's a rabbi. It's Yom Kippur. And he went, how can you give him such a, what do they call it when you get all... When you get all 18, you're just par, right? Zero, whatever you call it. How can you do that? How can you do that? He's a sinner and he gets rewarded. God says, rewarded? Who is he going to tell? It's punishment. Okay, so these are people that must be very altruistic. Very altruistic. I don't know if you ever met like the soldiers in Sahel and how it works there. The idea it's a completely different army than any other army in the world. No comparison. Like you'll see a simple, like basic private soldier go over to the not just the sergeant, the colonel, and tell him, why did you tell us to do this? You botched it up. You should have done this. And he's sitting there listening. He'd be court-martialed elsewhere. He's sitting there listening, okay? So it's not, you don't do it because you like this person. You like the person because God says you should like this person. That's a divine soul. This is a good person. Therefore, this is a good person. Therefore, I must like this. But this is a soul. It's a neshama. I have to love this person. This is God's creation. I have to love this person. You know what the difference is? When you love people because I'm a loving type of person, right? So you give it to everybody, right? Okay. And it's a lot of people you shouldn't be giving. You should not be giving. When you give to people because they have a neshama, you say, is it good for this person that I give to them? I don't think it's a good thing for me to give to this person now. it's a bad thing I'm doing to this person. They won't like me because I don't give to them, and other people won't like me, and I won't feel good because, you don't feel good about not giving, but I know I shouldn't give. It's the wrong thing to do. That's the difference.
So actually not loving the person is actually godly. In a way, in that example.
Who is the bigger hero? The guy who does all the nice things for you? Or the guy who's sitting there and really, really wants to club you one and get back at you, and he controls himself and he doesn't? Why? Because he knows it's not the right thing to do. That's what they say, like, why did Hillel say, Hadisani lach? That which is hateful to you, don't do to others, right? So all the different answers. Why did he just say, what's good for you, it's good for others, do to others as however it goes, okay? No, it's not. It's not. Maybe it was one answer. Maybe he was saying something different. It says real love is not expressed in what you do; it's in what you don't do. Because when you do, you can't give love without getting love back. It's the prison of love. You can't give love, but there's another way. You can not do something. You don't get anything back for it. But you didn't do what you wanted to do because you love this person. It's a much greater love. Okay, there's dividends in it as well. So maybe it's not as altruistic, but it's more altruistic. And it could be completely altruistic. So that's what I'm saying. Okay, we're going to have to continue this, God willing, next week. I hope more people come. Every time we take a break, so we lose all these people. But if you have some friends, please bring them along. Thank you, everybody, for coming and
Thank you.
Boxes and everything. Thank you for being there.
Hartstikke
Yes, you go. Do you want this?